The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. These guys can't go about like 3 seconds without saying a swear, so, listener discretion is advised.
Let's start this episode before Kyle says any more racist shit.
Oh, I'm just getting warmed up.
Oh, God.
I'm kind of glad he's cutting in and out.
All right. Well, let's get started then.
All right.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast for this week. My name is JD, and I've got two of my good friends here with me, like always. Mr. Kyle is here.
Yikes.
Oof, ouch. And Matt is also here.
I'm here. It's me.
It is.
You would be.
I am.
And this week we are talking about Glen Keane, famous Disney animators, feature directorial debut. Netflix just put out his new movie called Over the Moon. I feel like there's been a lot of buzz about this with Netflix, gathering up a lot of notable creators in the last year or so. Like, I know they, Glen Keane was brought in with them. I know Jorge Gutierrez is working on, I can't tell if Maya and the Three is supposed to be a series or a movie. And I think Craig McCracken is also working on something for Netflix.
I think Henry Selick might be attached to Netflix.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, Netflix is really, I really appreciate how Netflix is really doubling down on getting quality animation and quality talent to make content for them. And obviously tapping Glen Keane, who is, like we said, is
certified Disney legend.
He is a certified Disney legend. Yes.
But just in case anyone out there is unfamiliar with the name, if you are familiar with Disney, you've most likely seen his work. He did mostly character animation and design, visual development, and animation supervision on a lot of movies between the late 70s to the 2000s.
Basically, if you watched a Disney movie in the 90s to early 2000s, Glen Keane probably had a hand in it in some way or another.
Yeah, he worked on both Rescuers movies, Pete's Dragon, Fox and the Hound, Black Cauldron, Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Tarzan, Treasure Planet, and Tangled.
Yep. So, I mean, there's pretty much that 90s Disney where I would say there's a style to them. It's mostly because of Glen's art style.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like a lot of characters are, drawn in his style, and but yeah, so it's weird seeing Glen branch outside of Disney for this movie Over the Moon. Obviously we said it's his first, he's directed some shorts, I think even won an Oscar for his short a couple of years ago. I think it was a Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, he did a Dear Basketball in 2017, so he got the Oscar for Best Animated Short in 2018 for that.
Right. But so for this, he's not working with Disney, but this is a very Disney-esque movie. Even so much that they started singing the opening number, and I'm I didn't realize this was going to be a musical.
Yeah, I didn't recall the first trailer for the movie having the musical elements in it.
No.
Everything sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Yikes. The opening song had a very Beauty and the Beast feeling to it. No?
Yeah, I can see that.
Jesus, they had townspeople singing with the song. Very Beauty and the Beast, come on.
Yeah, I totally see that. So it's an interesting choice that this movie takes place entirely in China, well, also in space. But is very China and Chinese cultural focused.
Which I think you can attribute to the studio that produced it, because it seems that they primarily focus on stories and stuff set in China. Like they mostly worked on other films, but as far as original productions, this is their second animated one they've done. The first one being Abominable.
Yeah, Pearl Studio, which I think is a Chinese-based animation
I think it was
studio.
originally Shanghai DreamWorks or something along the lines of that. I think that was the original, and then they retitled it. It's something like that.
Gotcha. But yeah, this and Abominable are there two films. I've never seen Abominable because there was that and there was like Smallfoot that were like two Yeti movies that came out pretty close to each other. I didn't see either one of them.
And neither of them looked interesting.
Right.
I would say Smallfoot looked a little interesting, if only because of its style and just because it has that more cartoony style coming from Warner Brothers. But other than that, like the story didn't look appealing. But anyway,
I did want to bring up a small note for the two small notes about Glen Keane. So on the Tangled note, apparently Tangled was supposed to be his feature directorial debut, but he had to step away from the director role. I guess he had a non-life-threatening health issue that was persisting around the time. So he stepped back and he just kind of produced and did animation on the movie itself.
Right, I do remember something like that.
And then the other thing that I found out was Glen Keane is the son of Bill Keane, who is the creator of Family Circus.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, kind of funny note. And then in that same connection, Glenn worked on a Family Circus TV movie short in 1979. Like,
that's funny.
So it's a fun little connection to his dad there.
That is funny. And I know his daughter, I think, is also working for Disney right now. I think she worked on the Tangled TV show, and I know she's done things here and there.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's cool. You got a family of artists with like notable productions under their belts like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if Glen Keane is like your dad and your grandfather worked in like as a cartoonist, like a well-known comic strip, like you're bound to kind of end up in that industry in some way.
Right? Yeah.
It's great to know that nepotism is still alive and well.
So yeah, this movie, I didn't have a lot of expectations going into it, mostly because I hadn't seen a lot of things. When it was put up on Netflix, I kind of forgot that it was still coming out. So my Melanie and I, my wife, we watched it the other night. And I gotta say, it's not a movie that like I'm dying to watch over and over, but it was still a cute movie. I think it was, for what it is, well done. I am kind of glad that we're getting a lot of these like quality animated films that are pulling from cultures that we don't normally see. So this one being so steeped in I think it's still modern day, but the village or town that like the main characters live in is still very
traditional.
Very traditional. Thank you.
It was modern because they had iPad.
Right. But like the most modern thing I think you see in the movie is that they're building like a magnetic rail, train rail.
A maglev.
Maglev. Which the character is like a super like science nerd, so like she knows all about this.
Yeah, it was funny. I kind of related in a very particular aspect because I remembered back when I was in middle school, I did a science fair project that focused on magnetic levitation. So I built a little like a model that actually had like the magnets and like it was like a little train and stuff. So
Nice.
It kind of like came flooding back to me. I was like, oh shit, I've kind of worked with this before.
Right. So basically this movie centers around a girl named Fei Fei, who loses her mom like in the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Which, when we were making the Disney connection earlier, just like it's like when we got to that part, like that musical number, and like she was, dead like 10 minutes of the movie. Just like, yep, it's definitely a non-Disney Disney movie, like Dead Parent, like.
Yep. But her mom, as she was growing up, was always telling her the story of the moon goddess, who lives up on the moon with the jade rabbit, which is like a very I think Japan has a similar folk story. But I know the rabbit and the moon is kind of a Far East folklore kind of thing.
Yeah, I became familiar with the myth like a few years ago, only because Overwatch does like the Lunar New Year events like around January, and I think the very first one they did, the first or second one, I think, or maybe the first one, May, she has a costume that is in reference to Chang'e, and actually talks about the myth and everything on the little page for that. So that was the first time I became aware of that myth.
But yeah, so Fei Fei's mom passes away from parent death. They don't really say how she dies. She just kind of gets sick and dies. But
I think it's called a soap opera disease, right? It's just an undisclosed illness.
Right? I think I might know what it is.
Maybe let's just leave it as a mystery.
Right. But the conflict starts when this movie is years pass and Fei Fei is now a teenager, and her father is like starting to see this a new woman, and obviously Fei Fei, who had a very strong attachment to her mom, is obviously not too happy about that, and convinced that she needs to go see the moon goddess on the moon to convince her father that love is eternal and like you should always like stay true to like your first love, I guess. I mean, it's a very convoluted thing, and the way they go about it is it's taking a very science approach at first, but then very much quickly jumps into the fantastic.
It was so dumb to me that the way she's gonna prove is with a picture, a selfie with someone. She's gonna go, look, I got a selfie with this person. The dad's gonna be like, who the fuck is this? Like,
we said the exact same thing. Like, he could just as easily say, like, that's just some person in a costume. How are you going to prove that's an actual god?
Yeah.
You have a picture with.
Could have taken a picture with a homeless person for all he knows.
Right? I did kind of appreciate that, like, Fei Fei, who is like a very like smart character. She's very like into science, and like she's like in class, and her teacher is like yelling at her for like doodling or whatever in class, and then it shows what she's working on. This kid is fucking working on literal rocket science.
Yeah, like the teacher even makes a comment somewhere like, yeah, you're number 1 in the class now, but you could drop down to number 30 if you don't pay attention. I'm just like, dude, give her a break, man.
This girl should not be in like whatever middle school she's in. Like, she's doing rocket calculations and like knows how like magnetic levitation works and like builds her own magnetic rail system because she's like trying to figure out how to get a rocket off the ground. And then like she has that eureka moment where she's like, oh shit, I'll just build a magnetic rail to shoot the rocket off of, because traditional like propulsion, like a regular rocket, it wasn't working for her.
Yeah, because up until that point, she'd been using just like plastic models and fireworks to like,
right. which in fairness, she still does. And it's kind of at that point in the movie where it kind of jumps between basing this in real world to jumping into like more myth and fantasy stuff, where she finally launches the rocket with her soon to be stepbrother. The rocket like cuts out and they're gonna die. except the moon comes and abducts them.
Yeah, straight up just like beam out of the sky, like tractor beam, like drags them into space.
Right. And then they crash on the moon and they're met with big winged Chinese lions.
Now
to take them to the spirit world.
Now, did they die and the lions brought them back to life? Because they were on the moon with no space helmet on or anything.
That is kind of what I didn't think that they died, but they probably just like passed out, because I was wondering about it at first, because it's like they crash land on the moon, and first off, they didn't have any kind of air supply when they put helmets on. They just put a helmet on. There's no atmosphere on the moon, so there's no air.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was funny because like she put all this work into calculating like how she's gonna get to the moon, but then like an oversight of like, oh, how am I gonna breathe on the moon? Like,
Exactly. I mean, she puts a coffee pot on the rabbit.
yeah.
But yeah, the lions come, and I think they like give them magic breathing on the moon power.
They burp on them.
Right. So I really liked the whole fantasy world, the Lunaria or whatever they called it, where the moon goddess lives, with all these like interesting like blob creatures and mooncake creatures.
Lunarians.
Yeah. They
Lunarians.
live on the dark side of the moon, or I guess on the other side of the moon. It is kind of weird that you see some of these creatures interacting with like real world stuff. Like they mess with the moon driving around on there.
Yeah.
And towards the end, the giant space dog is like chewing on a satellite. So you have to wonder, is like, can the people down on Earth see this, or is this just like for a visual gag? Or it may like the way it blends real world with fantasy gets a little confusing sometimes.
Right. Well, maybe you can only see it with the imagination of a child or something.
That's true.
Yeah. Maybe if your mom dies, you'll be able to see the
it's like
dog.
It's like that thing in Harry Potter where you can only see the death horses if you've experienced death in your life.
I don't get this Harry Potter reference.
Whatever. I'm a nerd.
See what
coming from the Harry Potter looking motherfucker.
Shut up.
What bothered me about the movie is that the Space Queen has been on the moon for 3,000 years or something, and she still wasn't over the death of her loved one. But then
sometimes it takes time to grieve.
But then the little girl who lost her mom 4 years ago accepts it quicker than 3,000 years. It's a little weird, man. I don't like.
Well, listen,
like that.
If you were like in control of like a bunch of aliens formed from your tears and you turned into like Lady Gaga, like you probably like you might be juggling different priorities for 3,000 years.
Maybe.
I really enjoyed that though. Like I really enjoy the designs of the Lunarians and like kind of the whole moon aesthetic, and too the contrast of like the real moon with the fantastic elements of like, you know, the giant like frogs and the just all the creature design stuff's really fun. But then also kind of how they approach Chang'e, the space goddess. Like when she's introduced, it's like it's this big extravagant like pop star. She has like a musical number and everything, and then like she kind of does that for a bit, and then she dips back into like a more traditional like clothing and role and stuff. More exemplar, kind of more an example of like what I think Faye was expecting.
Right.
But I really did enjoy like that first, and I think we should definitely touch on it. We did mention it as a musical, but I really enjoyed the music in this film too. I would have to listen to it a bit more to really pick out like any particular favorite song, but I felt like the whole soundtrack was pretty good. I wasn't really a fan of like the rap thing they did while they were doing the ping pong.
I was actually gonna say that I actually kind of enjoyed the rap battle over a ping pong match.
I enjoy that scene for sure, like aesthetically and like how it's animated and stuff. But and I get why they went with that particular choice for that. For the song and stuff. I just feel like it's the weakest for me on that for the score, just because every other, or not the score, the soundtrack, just because every other song on there is like a more traditional musical number. It just feels like it's a big contrast.
A little out of place.
Not necessarily out of place. Maybe just like I said, just contrast with the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm personally not a big musical person. There's a lot
you
of
and Kyle aren't really.
yeah. Like there's a
Wait.
lot of early. Sorry, Kyle. What?
So they're played out.
Well, I'm one of those weird people that like I don't really like going back to like early Disney movies, and by early I mean like the Renaissance Disney movies. Just because I've heard those musicals so many times that they're just like I am okay to not really listen to them really ever again. Except my wife listens to them in the car, so I can't get away from them.
Right.
I was just gonna say something mean about stuff like that. Never mind.
But so I like as soon as like this movie presents itself as a musical, I'm like, oh god, here we go. It wasn't terrible. I can't say I remember any of the songs since I watched this a week ago.
I remember Ken John whatever he sang, and he was like, "Me silly." I remember that.
Well, yeah, I do remember like thinking that Ken Jeong really isn't that bad of a singer. Because I never really thought about him. Like I know he like hosts that Masked Singer game show, which I've never seen. But yeah, I was kind of surprised how well of a singing voice he has.
Yeah, I actually had to check up on that because I was under the impression that they probably would have, and it is typical with musical or animated musicals. Sometimes they'll have a different singing voice from whoever does the actual speaking voice. But yeah, no, that's actually him doing the singing, and yeah, no, I didn't expect that from him, but he does a pretty good job.
He's an actor, voice actor, comedian,
and a doctor,
and a doctor,
and a singer.
He's got it all.
Damn.
Yeah, as far as the rest of the voice cast goes, I recognized a few. Like I know John Cho's in there and Sandra Oh. But yeah, it tends to stick with. I mean, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other names on there that some other people recognize. But
well, the one that
Margaret Cho
the other one I had no idea about, but like Melanie picked up immediately. I guess the woman who plays Changa, Philippa Sue here. I guess she's one of the main characters in the Hamilton musical. So like Melanie for like the first like during the entire first song that Changa does, she's like that. It sounds so familiar, and then she had to look it up, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I never would have got that personally, but that's cool, I guess.
That makes sense that they would get like a professional singer to fulfill that specific role.
Right.
Like I said, they present that character as like this big like pop star, like when she's introduced. So I think you kind of want to have that pedigree for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
As long as Aquafina's not in here, but I guess they say.
What's wrong with Aquafina?
Oh, I don't know, man. But she's in Rayman's Last Dragon.
Yeah, I know. And I'm looking forward to that. I love Aquafina's voice.
She was in Sponge on the Run as Otto. Can you believe that shit?
I didn't actually. I looked when I saw that. I don't think we mentioned that in our Sponge on the Run review, but yeah, I looked that up on Wikipedia and I was surprised. I was like, oh my god, that's I think underneath the modulation. I kind of assumed it was the same voice actor as Karen.
Oh yeah, huh?
Because it just that's what it sounded like to me. But yeah, no, it kind of surprised me when I looked it up afterward.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
So one of the things I did find kind of interesting, I don't know who this person is exactly, but I guess they got an actual like Chinese fashion designer who I guess is like done like dress design for like a bunch of different celebrities and stuff. But all of Changa's outfits were actually like designed by this like famous fashion designer. I think Guo Pei is their name. So I did think it was interesting. They actually brought in an actual fashion designer to design for this, like queen goddess / pop star. Changa's got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I wonder how common that is for like a lot of these animated films. 'Cause, I mean, obviously there are people that are designing these characters and stuff, but when it comes to like the actual outfits, obviously they're going to draw inspiration from certain places. But to have actually somebody that has like experience of working specifically in real life fashion come and design costumes for your character separate from the people actually doing the concept work and everything. Yeah, definitely kind of an interesting pull there.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think it was a pretty good decision because, yeah, the outfits are so like extravagant and stuff. And she switches them like pretty much every different scene you see her in. So.
Yeah. So yeah, you could definitely see they put a lot of work into the not just the character design, but just the world design. Whether it is like the Chinese town or this fantastical moon kingdom. I will say, like, aesthetically, this movie is like I think is gorgeous. It is on par with anything I think Disney would put out.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the aesthetic too. Like, especially like the moon stuff and everything. Uh, I know Kyle had some problems with the designs of the movie, and I kind of understand like where he's coming from. Well, because I mean, because you're saying it was kind of like it looked a little bit run of the mill, yeah.
I said the humans look but ugly. Those were the words, and then
no, I thought you said something along the lines of comparing it to like Kubo and stuff, right? As far as like,
oh, I meant story wise. No, I mean just visually. To me, human characters and stuff like that, it looks like just about anything else you could show me. You could show me characters from Abominable, and show me characters from this, and say, hey, pick which one these are from, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know.
they do definitely have some similarities for sure, at least down to the human designs. But I mean, as far as like, you know, when they go to like the moon and like all the alien designs, and everything else, I mean, what would you think of those?
I mean, I like those, but
Oh,
I mean, I like those enough, but it just feels like it could be in a different movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could make its own different movie with just those visual designs. It doesn't. Yeah, whatever.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that sentiment drives home that it's a good decision to have it in this movie, just because it provides such a contrast to the real world. To have them is like a, you know, having the human designs put against this backdrop of like this really extravagant, very colorful, very sort of like blobby, like alien like world.
I mean, when you talk about like different styles and shit from movies, whatever, think about like, you know, same culture bullshit. Think of that Pixar movie Bao and how visually different that looked from, say, like, you know, this movie or that Abominable movie, or even the Rina and the Last Dragon. Just like that it's visually different, but these ones, it just feels so fucking cookie cutter that I feel like the whole moon stuff really did put it on that different level. It was needed in that sense.
Sure.
If that makes any sense, I don't know.
No, I get you.
Yeah. Personally, I kind of get where you're coming from. But I do think I think Matt was saying something along these lines that like having that like real world environment that they start at, and even though it is this kind of very traditional Chinese architecture, it's still like very interesting and like feels very authentic. But yeah, when you take that and then you know, kind of contrast that with the Moon Kingdom, where everything is very like saturated, vibrant, all the designs are really sleek compared to like this very old, ancient kind of looking aesthetic that the town has. I do think that those two design aesthetics kind of contrast themselves well. They kind of helps sell the idea that like, okay, this is a different world that they've entered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on the whole, this movie was fine. Again, like I said at the start, it's not something I'm rushing to go watch again, but I'm not upset that I watched it. I did want to see what Glen Keane could do. Helming his first feature. And I think for a first outing, not too bad. I think the story for the most part is pretty solid. It's got a lot of nice visuals. I think if anyone is interested in like Glen Keane's work, or I think I would suggest give this a look. It's it's your standard hour and a half animated film, and it is very Disney-esque. So if you are a fan of Disney, you probably will I would say enjoy this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you have stock placed in Disney like musicals and such, like you would definitely vibe with this film.
Yeah, for sure. Well, is there anything else you guys want to bring up before we start wrapping up?
I think I can go the rest of my life without ever seeing this movie again and live a happy, fulfilled life.
That's maybe a little harsh.
Jesus.
No, I would definitely recommend this movie to. Yeah, I mean, I will definitely tell my friends about this movie, like all of my animation aficionados. I would think that's at least like worth a watch, like especially not just even based on the Disney relation, merit, but just like on its own. Yeah, like I've already mentioned, the designs are nice, the music I really enjoyed, and just overall, as far as like. Based against other like new things that came out this year that we've seen, I would say this definitely is up on the higher end of that.
Yeah, it's been kind of a animated feature drought this year, so this is kind of a welcome addition to that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and if you got Netflix, I mean, you've already got the service, might as well give it a watch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. There is our thoughts on Over the Moon. Visit our Facebook, our Twitter, our YouTube, our Discord, whatever, and let us know what you thought about the movie as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts. All the links for that are going to be in the show notes. And yeah, I think that'll do it for this week. Thank everybody for listening, and we'll catch you all again next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with the show. Join our Discord to chat with us. Links are in the description. We'll see you next time.